How's everybody doing? This is Phil, the Kaiju King, from my collection room in Greater Cincinnati. And in this video, I am doing a review of a surprisingly great figure. My opinion, it should be in contention for figure of the year. It is that good in my view. It is the 30 centimeter Barugon from the 1966 movie Gamera vs. Barugon. And I will start off by showing the box. I don't usually show boxes, but I'm going to try to start showing the boxes because these boxes are getting pretty cool, I think. We will start off with the box right now. Alright everybody, here's the box for the 30 centimeter Barugon 1966. This is the standard. I didn't pre-order this figure, but I found it on Hobby Search last week, and it was a pretty good price, I thought, for the standard, so I went ahead and got it. And I'm happy with the standard. I know the Rick was light up spikes on his back, I believe, and light up eyes, if I'm not mistaken. But this is a really nicely done figure, nicely done box. I like the box art. I like the black and white on it. This is the figure on the box. They did a really good job on it. Of course, it's got the X Plus Garage toy up here on the top. It says 30 centimeter, the name and the movie and the text in Japanese. It's pretty nicely done. Now we'll take a look at the, talk about the movie and take a look at the figure. Alright everybody, here he is, the 30 centimeter Barugon 1966 from the movie Gamera vs. Barugon. The movie is probably my favorite Showa Gamera movie. Followed closely by the Gauss, Gamera vs. Gauss, and the original. The first three movies of the Showa Gamera films were the best in my opinion. And after that they really kind of kid-friendly, goofy, silly stuff. But the first three, though, to me are the best. But this is my favorite. I've watched them recently, and I know Gauss is Gamera's eternal rival and enemy, and has showed up in multiple films, but this guy is my favorite enemy of Gamera and my favorite movie of the Showa Gamera movies. I just love the development of this creature, and it's a crawler. We don't have enough crawlers in the kaiju universe, in my opinion. And it's pretty cool. He's a crawler, and Gamera does both crawls and stands and flies. But this guy is the Rainbow Warrior freeze emitting demon, and he's pretty awesome. Of course, in the film, the folks go to the island and they are looking for this legendary jewel they think is priceless, and they do find it in a cave, and one of the guys is really wicked and evil. His name is Oenera, I think, or something like that, and he lets one of his partners get bit by the scorpion, even though he sees it on him like minutes before it actually stings him, and he lets him die from that. And then the other guy, he buries him, throws some dynamite in there and buries him in there and thinks he kills him, and then he takes the jewel and escapes back to the boat and heads back to the mainland of Japan. In the meantime, he got some injuries on his foot, and they were mending to it, and they had some heat on it, on his foot, and this opal, or jewel, they called it an opal in the movie, it found its way into the light of this heat, and it was actually an egg, not an opal, and the heat incubated it, and it hatched, and it quickly became this guy, Barugon. And Barugon wreaked havoc on Japan and was just causing all kinds of havoc. The military couldn't handle him, and they were going to launch some missiles at him, and he did his rainbow ray off of the 7 glow spines on his back here. They emit a rainbow ray that destroys everything, and he shot it at, they were preparing to fire missiles at him, and he shot his rainbow ray and destroyed the missiles. And then he went ahead and commenced to taking his tongue, which comes out of his mouth like so. It comes out, ejects his tongue, and it emits a freezing gas that freezes everything it touches. So he was commencing to freeze the city, freeze everything, and then Gamera shows up, of course, and they get in a fight, and Gamera's hitting him with his fire, and he challenges him with his freezing gas, and his freezing gas overcomes Gamera's fire, and he freezes Gamera there where they stand. And Gamera's standing, and then he falls on the ground, and he's frozen. And then Barugon goes on his way, destroying everything. And then the military and the people of Japan are trying to figure out how to defeat Barugon, and then the girl on the island that knows about Barugon and the guy that was in the cave survived. He gets out, and him and that girl come back to the mainland in pursuit of the opal, because she knows it's actually Barugon. Well, it's too late. He's done hatched, and then they're trying to defeat him, and she helps them to eventually try to defeat him, and she tells them that he's attracted to diamonds and all that, and they try to lure him to water. Water is a weakness for Barugon in the film. They are spraying him with helicopters with artificial water, and it stops him in his tracks. And it's a weakness for him, being in water for a long period of time. And they're luring him toward the lake, trying to get him to go after that diamond. And then they have it... They get him to the lake, and he starts into the lake, but then he backs off because he's smart enough to know not to do that. So that doesn't work. So then they figure out that they can reflect his rainbow ray back to him. So they do that. They build a nice big, looks like a satellite with mirrors, and he shoots his ray and then hits it, and it emits back right to him, and it really messes him up. He bleeds purple blood, and he's got wounds all up on his back, up here above on his head and everything. And then but he's not dead yet, and the girl tells him that he won't do that again. He won't make that mistake again. He won't fire his rainbow ray again, because they're wanting him to shoot it again to try to finish him off. But he won't do it, she tells him. So then they bring the helicopters back in, and they're wetting him down, and they're trying to keep him down. But it shows a close-up of his wounds on his back, and he got really messed up from his ray. It's pretty crazy. And he had some deep wounds and bleeding and everything. So finally, Gamera shows up, and they start battling, and ends up that Gamera finally eventually grabs him by the neck and drags him into the lake, into the bottom of the lake, and that asphyxiates him, and the water, of course, kills him. So, but it's a really good movie. I love the movie. It's my favorite Gamera Show movie by far. Gauss is good, and the first one's good, but I just like this creature, this design, out of all the Showa Gamera enemies. And when this came out, I didn't pre-order it, and then when I seen it getting released and people in the X Plus group was posting pictures, I was just blown away by it. And then I happened to go to Hobby Search, and this was my first order on Hobby Search, this and the Orga. And I was blown away by when I got it and opened it. It is literally, I see nothing wrong with this figure. So as far as this figure goes, he's got a pretty big footprint. His tail goes back pretty far and curves off to his left, and it's up in the air. So his footprint is pretty long. I'd say he's at least 15 inches long ways from the tip of his nose out. Yeah, I'd say. I mean, it is good that his tail curves off to the side, though. But he does have a pretty big footprint because of just his length and his tail going off to the side. But it ain't too bad. But his tail has got all the nice spikes on it, brown color. His whole body is brown, which is just like the movie. And the end of his tail has 3 rows of spikes, 2 on the side, 1 on the top that, of course, goes into the tail spikes all the way up. On the side of his tail is some plating, I would call it, some protective plating on, like almost like armor. It looks like to me, runs all the way down, halfway down his tail. And that is in the movie. I've checked. I watched the movie thoroughly and was comparing this against. I was pausing the film and everything, and it's dead on. Of course, he is the crawler, so both his rear legs are crawling, and he has a spike on the end of his heel on both feet. That's from the film. He has protruding spikes at the base of his legs by his body, and up here on his neck. and those are on the film. It's amazing how they nailed. I think they nailed the sculpt. Of course, got some suit wrinkles and suit accuracies here on the legs. You can see some nice wrinkling from the suit. That is from the suit. Same with the front legs. The front legs have wrinkles, and he has 5 claws on the front legs, 5 claws on the back legs. The front left leg is elevated off the ground there, which is cool. On his back, of course, are all the spikes, and there's 7 in the middle that are white, and they're translucent. If I put lights, which I'm not that skilled to do that kind of stuff, but they look to be translucent by me looking at them. I think it's the same as the Rick, it just don't have the light up. But if I put lights in there, I think those would light up. But those 7 spikes are the spikes that he emits the rainbow ray from. Then there's 2 here in the front, which are the brown color, which is in the film. Nice wrinkling around his neck there from the suit. On his back, if you look, there's diamond-shaped skin texture, and I call it plating really, but diamond-shaped skin texture on his back and on his tail. Smaller on the tail, of course, larger on the back. And then down here more on his sides and his legs, there is dotted textures on his skin, which is in the movie. I made sure to check that out because I noticed that on the figure. I had the figure in my lap when I was watching the film. So both sides, on his legs, on his sides, there's the dotted skin textures, and that is prevalent on the suit in the film. Of course, up here on his head, he's got the 2 horns on his forehead, I would say, up by his eyes, and then the big long horn up there at the end of his nose. They even got this sculpt of the shape of his nose, nostrils. They got that just like in the suit in the film. His eyes are white on the outer, and then the pupil is a tannish color, then black, and then a dot of the tan on the very inside of the pupil. So it's the eye is white, but the pupil is a tan on the outer, then a black inner pupil, and then a very small dot of tan on the black inside the pupil, and that is accurate to the eyes in the film. I was making sure I was looking at the eyes and pausing the film and everything, and it is accurate to the film. So it's very nicely done, nicely done sculpt. As far as he has the long snout, of course, the horn. His teeth are very nicely done. Of course, on the bottom and top of his mouth, he has 2 teeth on either side of his jaws that are longer than all of his other teeth, and that is just like in the film. Teeth are individually sculpted, very, very nicely done as far as his teeth go. Then, of course, his tongue. This is the standard, but his tongue does come out like the Rick. And there it is. That's what he looks like with his tongue out. Pretty cool. Pretty nicely done. Very neat. And then, of course, I noticed Gamera turned him over a time or 2, and his underbottom is a reddish brown color. And sure enough, I look at the bottom of the figure, and it is a reddish brown color, just like the suit in the movie. So I can find nothing wrong with this sculpt. I think the sizing's perfect. The details are immaculate on it, and it's a 10. To me, this thing's a 10. If I had to rate it 1 through 5 or 1 through 10, it's a 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 for me personally, because I just can't find nothing wrong that is not accurate with the movie. Like I said, I sat and held this the whole time while I was watching the film, and this is dead on to Barugon in the film, and the size is right on perfect, I think, as you'll see in my size comparisons. But in my opinion, this should be a severe contender for Figure of the Year. It's in my contender for Figure of the Year for X Plus, in my opinion. It's just, it is. It's I don't see how it can't be. I can't find nothing wrong with this figure. If you're a Gamera fan and you like Barugon, I would highly recommend this figure. Alright, we'll go on to some size comparisons, and we'll do that right now. Alright everybody, I'm back, and I have brought forth my Gamera 1967, which is the Gamera vs. Gauss. I think in essence it's the same suit from both movies. They're 1 year apart, so. But this Gamera I'm filling in. I wish they'd give me a 30 centimeter Gamera 66, and preferably crawling, because I don't have a crawling Gamera, and I'd like it to match with this guy. It would be perfect. So X Plus, if you're listening, let's see a crawling 30 centimeter Gamera 66. That will be really cool. But these two, I think they scale perfectly, because I recall when he was first showed up to fight Barugon, he was standing. This looks to me about the right scale, so they look really cool together. Very impressive, both of these pieces, really, in my opinion. Alright, let's do another size comparison right away. I'm back everybody, and I brought forth the 30 centimeter Anguirus 1968, another crawler. We need some more crawlers in the Monsterverse. In any Monsterverse. I'd love to see some of the, like Anguirus, come to the Monsterverse. That would be cool. Hedra, and maybe have him a crawling form. That would be cool. But we need more crawlers, period. But these two look pretty cool together, and I bring forth Anguirus and Gamera because Anguirus is a pretty common figure a lot of people own in the X Plus group, and you can see the size comparison here and gauge Barugon by Anguirus. But they look really cool together. Two great crawlers from the Kaiju world. Very nicely done. Alright, let's do another size comparison right now. Alright, now I've got the 25 centimeter. This is 25. This is a 30 centimeter. 25 centimeter crawling stage Hedra. This is the soft vinyl one version. But just another scaling to show scale. Barugon is quite a bit bigger as far as length and everything, but that's normal because he's a 30 centimeter, so it makes sense. That crawling Hedra is pretty cool. They look neato together. Got some Showa era crawlers here. Pretty cool. Alright, one final size comparison with a more recent crawler. Let's do that right now. Alright, I've got the 30 centimeter Kamata-kun Shin Godzilla's first form with my 30 centimeter Barugon 66. Of course, Shin Godzilla was 2016, 3 years ago. That movie came out, and it's still all the rage in the Godzilla community. Shin Godzilla has been a very popular rendition of Godzilla in my eyes. They keep making figures of it, that should tell you that. So, but as you can see, lengthwise, Kamata-kun is a tad bit longer. I mean, if they stretched out, he'd still be longer because his tail, Shin Godzilla's tail, is so crazy long anyway to begin with. So, kind of makes sense. They look neato together. 1966 and 2016 right there. Got what, 50 years apart from one another right there. Pretty cool. Alright, I'll move on to some final thoughts on Barugon, and we'll do that right now. I'm back everybody. My final thoughts on Barugon 1966 X Plus. It is a contender for figure of the year for me. I can't find anything wrong with this figure. To me it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. I watched it, I had it, held it in my hands watching the movie, and it's very, very accurate to the film. I think the scale is right, as you can see with my size comparisons with the Gamera 67. So I just can't find nothing wrong with it. I highly recommend it if you're a Gamera fan. If you're a Barugon fan and the Showa era Gamera, this is a must-have. And to my knowledge, on Hobby Search, it's still available as standard, so grab it if you can afford yourself the chance. But to me, it's a contender for figure of the year. This 64 Ghidra standard edition, 02 Sakai, and the gigantic 89. Those are my 4 right now for figure of the year for X Plus. Of course, that could change, but I haven't reviewed Orga yet. I haven't really got into Orga, but I'm going to do that later today or tomorrow. So this here is a 10 out of 10 for me. They really did a masterful job with Barugon. I highly recommend this figure to any collector that is into the Showa era Gamera films and has any admiration for this kaiju. It's wonderful. I will bring the camera closer now for a close-up of this guy, and I want to thank everyone for supporting my channel and viewing. This is Phil, the Kaiju King, from my collection room in Greater Cincinnati, and you all have a very blessed day.